You've been incredibly open about your experiences with entrepreneurial anxiety and depression. And, well, today's deep dive is really all about how your journey has some surprising lessons for all of us, even if we haven't walked in your exact shoes.
It's really fascinating how much we can learn from each other's stories.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
For example, you're creating content about personal development and overcoming depression long before you personally experienced it. It's almost like you were anticipating the path ahead.
It's certainly a curious paradox, isn't it? I think it speaks to a larger truth, though. Mental health doesn't discriminate.
Hmm.
We often try to connect it to specific life events, but the reality is these struggles can impact anyone, regardless of outward appearances.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I remember reading about the criticism you received early on, viewers questioning your understanding of depression at a young age.
Yeah.
And then life threw that curveball your way.
It did. It did indeed. A whole series of them, in fact. That difficult company merger, the financial strain, the weight of leadership, it all took its toll. I think that period was a stark reminder that achieving outward success doesn't make us immune to mental health challenges.
No, it's like having it all on paper. A loving partner, supportive family, financial security, things that so many people strive for, yet still struggling internally. It really shows how deceptive appearances can be.
Absolutely. But, one of the most powerful outcomes of that period was the empathy it fostered. It completely changed my approach to creating content.
And thank goodness for that, because that shift towards sharing your personal experiences, your vulnerabilities, that's where the real magic happens, right? People crave authenticity. It's incredibly powerful to feel like you're in the trenches alongside someone who gets it.
And you know what? That's what I hear from so many creators now, that people are tired of the perfectly curated facade. They crave realness. Even if it's messy, they want to know they're not alone in their struggles.
100%. And you were also brave enough to seek professional help during that time, which is so crucial. Although even that came with its own unexpected twist.
You're telling me. Finding myself face to face with a psychologist who was not only familiar with my work, but seemed to be applying my own advice back to me. Let's just say it made those sessions a bit more meta.
I can only imagine.
That's
It sounds like something straight out of a sitcom. But on a serious note, I think it speaks to the importance of finding the right therapist, someone you truly connect with. Did that experience make you rethink how you approach giving advice yourself?
It definitely underscored the importance of humility and remembering that we're all on our own unique journeys.
Speaking of unique journeys, you've talked about how your friend's anxiety about potentially selling a vacation home while still owning several others really shifted your perspective on what constitutes a real problem.
That experience was a masterclass in recognizing that everyone's definition of hardship is relative. Just because someone appears to have it all doesn't mean they're not facing very real challenges and anxieties.
It's like we can get so caught up in the magnitude of our own problems that we forget other people have their own mountains to climb, even if those mountains are metaphorical vacation homes.
Precisely. It's a powerful reminder to practice empathy and examine our own definitions of what constitutes a real problem.
It's a good reminder that comparison really is the thief of joy. What might seem like a minor inconvenience to one person can be a huge source of stress for someone else.
Yeah.
It's all relative, right?
Absolutely. And you were incredibly honest about how those stressful times impacted you personally. You talked about experiencing a loss of confidence and even losing your passion for the creative outlets that once brought you joy.
And that's something I think a lot of creatives struggle with. That fear of losing your mojo, your spark. It can be so disheartening when the things that used to light you up just don't have the same effect anymore.
It's like experiencing a creative drought. But instead of trying to force inspiration, you allowed yourself to explore new hobbies, like Warhammer, finding a sense of normalcy and escape in those activities.
It's so important to give yourself permission to explore and evolve, especially during times of stress and uncertainty. Sometimes you need to hit the reset button and try something completely new.
Absolutely. And through it all, you had a strong support system to lean on. You've talked about the crucial role your partner and family played, especially your father's affirmation during a particularly difficult moment.
That story always gets to me. The image of your father, a man who you said isn't the most outwardly emotional person, expressing such heartfelt pride in your accomplishments, it really highlights the power of simple validation from loved ones, especially during challenging times.
Those small gestures of support can be incredibly powerful. And speaking of powerful tools, you also develop some really practical coping mechanisms for managing anxiety.
Yes. You talked about learning to recognize and name your anxiety when it arises, and the importance of viewing situations from a long-term perspective. Can you tell us more about those techniques?
Absolutely. These are tools that anyone can benefit from because anxiety often thrives on our inability to sit with discomfort. By acknowledging it, naming it, we take away some of its power.
It's like you're saying, hey, anxiety, I see you. You're not going to control me.
Precisely. One technique I've found particularly helpful is actually visualizing my anxiety, giving it a shape or a color.
Mm,
It sounds a bit strange, but it helps me separate myself from the feeling and see it as something temporary, something I can observe rather than be consumed by.
that's such a great visualization technique. And then there's the power of taking that long-term perspective, right?
Yeah.
Instead of getting completely consumed by the immediacy of a stressful situation, you ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year?
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective and recognizing that not every challenge deserves to derail your entire day.
So true. It's about separating what's truly significant from what's simply annoying. Which brings us to another relatable experience you shared, your feel of a downturn after experiencing a period of immense success. You drew a really interesting parallel to poker.
Ah, yes, the classic entrepreneurial roller coaster. You're riding high on a wave of success, but there's always that underlying awareness that what goes up must eventually come down.
It's like you're at the top of that massive wave, completely stoked to be there, but also aware that you're going to have to ride it out when it breaks.
And that awareness is crucial. It's about managing your expectations, staying grounded even during those winning streaks, and maintaining that long-term perspective we were just talking about.
So instead of freaking out about the inevitable downswing, you ride it out, knowing that there will be another upswing eventually.
Exactly. It's about playing the long game, both in poker and in life.
And speaking of navigating the ups and downs, you shared a really brilliant habit that you've developed, recording videos during tough moments to reflect on later. What inspired you to start doing that?
It's so easy to forget how far we've come, how much we've overcome. Those videos serve as tangible reminders of my resilience and the transient nature of challenges.
It's like having your own personal highlight reel, but instead of just showcasing the wins, it captures the struggles, the doubts, the moments you pushed through and ultimately triumphed over.
It's a way to document your own growth and resilience. And you know what I find incredibly inspiring? Sharing those videos with others.
It's like you're saying, look, I've been there. I've felt those same feelings of fear and uncertainty, but I came out on the other side, and so can you. It's such a powerful message of hope.
Exactly. And that message resonates because it's rooted in genuine experience. You're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, and you have the footage to prove it.
It makes your message so much more relatable and authentic. And that brings us to something you mentioned earlier about how reflecting on past struggles can sometimes actually diminish the enjoyment of present success.
Yeah.
It's almost like we start to feel guilty if we're not constantly struggling.
It is a fascinating paradox, isn't it? We work so hard to overcome challenges and achieve our goals, and then we hesitate to fully embrace our success because it feels somehow unearned if it wasn't born out of struggle.
Right. It's like we've internalized this idea that if it's not hard, it's not worth having.
Exactly. We tie our self-worth to our struggles, which can prevent us from truly appreciating and celebrating our wins.
That's such an important point to unpack because on the one hand, we don't want to downplay our accomplishments or chalk them up entirely to luck.
Yeah.
You've worked incredibly hard and you deserve to own those victories.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we don't want to fall into the trap of comparing our current success to past struggles and feeling like it's somehow less valid because it didn't come with the same level of hardship. It's like that voice in the back of our head saying, yeah, but remember how much harder it was back then. This is a piece of cake compared to that.
And that's where we need to challenge that narrative. We need to recognize that success earned through resilience is valid, but so is success earned through lessons learned, through smarter choices, through personal growth.
It's like saying to your past self, hey, thanks for the wisdom, but present me is killing it right now, and that's something to celebrate.
Exactly. Give yourself permission to experience the full spectrum of emotions that come with success, the joy, the pride, the satisfaction, without needing to qualify them by comparing them to past hardships.
It's about recognizing that your past struggles were valuable teachers, but they don't get to dictate how you experience your present success.
Precisely. And who knows, maybe by fully embracing and celebrating our present wins, we'll be even more equipped to handle future challenges with grace and resilience.
Because, let's be real, life is going to throw those curveballs no matter what.
Right.
But hey, at least we're becoming more adept at navigating those twists and turns.
That's the beauty of growth, isn't it? We learn and evolve and become more equipped to handle whatever comes our way.
You've given us so much to think about today. It's been an incredible deep dive into the complexities of entrepreneurial anxiety, the power of vulnerability, and the importance of celebrating our wins.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, if you're out there listening and struggling with any of these challenges, you are not alone.
Couldn't agree more. You are worthy of success and happiness, no matter what your journey has looked like. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, here's a final thought for you to ponder. What would it look like for you to fully own your accomplishments, to celebrate your successes without reservation, while still honoring the lessons learned along the way?
It's a question worth reflecting on. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep celebrating your wins, big and small.